Okay, Carla, today we're going to do a recipe that's called orange beef and broccoli. Um, and it's very easy to make, very simple to make, and very tasty. You start off with some flank steak that you get at the grocery store, and we're going to slice that into thin pieces. You need some beef broth. The orange flavoring is going to come from orange marmalade. We'll need, of course, teriyaki sauce. I'm going to use a little bit of Mirin, which is basically a rice wine used for cooking. We're going to need some cornstarch. The broccoli is going to come from, of course, broccoli florets. These come in a bag at the grocery store. A little bit of garlic. That'll go in with the marinade. And I'm going to serve this with some brown rice. So first thing we're going to do is prepare the meat. Okay, so we're going to cut the flank steak into thin strips and we're going to marinate it for a little while. Flank steak is a very flat piece of meat. It comes from the underneath the belly of the cow. It has a reputation of being a little bit tough, but it gets used a lot in a variety of different meals. If you ever had fajitas, you've probably had flank steak. One way to get over the kind of toughness is how you cut it. If you cut it on a diagonal like this, that will make it more tender. Now this is a big piece of meat right here. I'm not using this whole thing for this recipe. I got another recipe I'm going to use half of this for. So I'm going to start with my handy dandy knife and cut it into 2 sections here first. Alright, there we go. So I'll just use this portion for today, and then I'll use this portion for later on. So I'm going to set this off to the side for a moment. You'll be seeing that piece of meat later on. All right. Now we're going to take this piece and we're going to cut it into thin strips. Take a little bag ready here. And then we're going to marinate it for a little bit before we get to cooking. So since I've already got it cut on diagonal that way, I'm just going to follow my pattern. All right, thin strips like that. I'm going to cut it a little bit. And strips about like that. So we're just going to continue on cutting this up. As I cut them up, they're going to go in the bag. We're going to continue that. If you get any big gristly chunks like that, you can just take a little knife and kind of trim those down a little bit. Get rid of those. Alright, and I'm going to continue on cutting up the rest of this, and then we will fix our marinade. Okay, I've got the meat all cut up into little bits now. And if you're serving a bunch of people, obviously you would use more meat than what I'm using. I'm just doing a couple of servings here. Alright, so those are going in the bag. Get this out of the way. And then to marinate it for a short while, add a little bit of teriyaki. The original recipe actually calls for soy. I happen to prefer teriyaki because it's not nearly as salty. soy sauce. I think it has a better flavor to it. Just enough in there. Mix that around. I'm also going to add some of the Mirin to it. Again, it's the rice. Basically, it's a rice wine. A little bit of that in there. And then the garlic. Just a couple of, these are actually a couple of really small cloves. There's not going to be a whole lot of garlic in here. Okay. We're going to seal that up. Get the air out of the bag. And that's going to go sit in the refrigerator for a couple of hours. Now, if you don't want to do this with beef, you can very easily do this with chicken. You do basically an orange chicken. Just get some chicken breast, cut them into thin strips instead. So either way, beef or chicken will work just fine. Main difference would be if you do the chicken, instead of using the beef broth, when you get ready to cook it, you would use chicken broth. But either way, so that's going to go in the refrigerator for a few hours, and then we'll be back and then we'll start cooking. Okay, Carla, I'm back. In the meantime, since you last saw me after I cut up the meat and put it into a bag, I've been really busy. Actually, that's a lie. I took a nap. But anyway, I'm back now. Wakey, wakey. I've taken the meat out of the bag, and I basically have drained it so that it's going to get dry. I just put in a little strainer, drain all the juice off of it, and letting it sit for a minute. We're going to dredge that shortly. I just brought the water up to a boil to put the broccoli in, or the broccoli portion of tonight's show. This is the part Joseph's not going to like, and that's too bad, because Joseph's not a vegetable eater. He does not like broccoli, and it's got lots of fiber in it, and God knows, Joseph, you need more fiber in your diet. There, I said it. Okay, so water's coming up to a boil. When that comes up to boil, we're going to steam the broccoli, not boil it. We're going to steam it. So I'll put that off to the side. Alright, I'm going to make the sauce that's going to go on this, and for this we're going to use half a cup of the beef broth. And again, if you were doing this with chicken, you would use chicken broth instead, but we're doing meat or beef, so we'll do half a cup of the beef broth into the bowl. Okay. And then for the orange portion of this, we're going to use orange marmalade. Now for this particular thing, I'm using, since we're cutting down on sugar and carbs and all that, I'm using the low sugar orange marmalade. This is half the sugar, half the carbs, or half the calories of regular orange marmalade. Now if someone's watching and you don't need to worry about sugar and carbs, you can use regular orange marmalade. That'll be fine. But for this, we're going to use the low sugar version, and we're going to use half a cup of this as well. So let me get Mr. Spoon over here. Use half a cup of this. My dog is pacing back and forth here because she knows something good is coming. Alright, a little bit more. Oh, there we go. Okay. So, there's the orange part. Add that. Mix that in. I'm going to whisk that together in a moment. Okay, and I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of teriyaki. we're just going to stir this all together. Marmalade's a little on the chunky side, so we want to break it up so that the orange bits and pieces, because marmalade's made with orange peel and orange segments and all that, so we want to break it up so we don't get it gloppy. Nothing worse than gloppy food. In fact, I might whisk. See what we can do with this. I think that'll break it up a little better. Okay, there we go. Alright, I'm going to set that off to the side. And then I'm going to start on the meat. Okay, Carla, we're back. The water's come up to a boil for the broccoli, so I'm going to carefully get the lid off this puppy. And I don't know if you can see this from the camera angle, but down there you see there's no water in there. The water's below the steamer basket, so I'm just adding broccoli there. Going to put the lid on. That's going to steam for, I don't know, maybe about 5 minutes. So let me set my timer here. Get there. Set that for 5 minutes. Okay. So there we go. Timer going. All right. Now, onto the meat. I've got my meat that has drained for a bit. Get scissors out of the way. And I'm going to bring the heat up on the stove to a medium-high heat. I got a little oil in the pan there. And we're going to cook the meat. Let that come up. Now we're going to dredge this with cornstarch. Trying to think how I can do this without making a huge, monstrous mess. Spoon. Put some cornstarch on the plate there. And the meat should be fairly dry by now. I didn't want it really wet and sloppy, because then it would get really chunky, gloppy, whatever with the cornstarch when I get ready to cook it. So cornstarch, beef, oil in the pan coming up to heat. I got it on about little medium high because I got a non-stick pan. Never heat a non-stick pan up to high heat. Always use medium high, no higher than that. Rice about done, so that's ready to go. As soon as that comes up to heat, we're going to start cooking. Broccoli is actually done steaming, so I've turned the heat off of that. It's just sitting on the stove now. We're going to take the meat, and my oil's up to heat now. Got some cornstarch on a plate here, and I'm going to transfer it here, and then we're going to cook it. We're just going to dredge it lightly in cornstarch, like that. This goes fairly quickly. Doesn't have to be totally covered. Shake off the excess, because if not, I'll probably end up getting some on the dog. Cornstarch is used as a thickener, and the cornstarch that we put on this meat is actually going to thicken the sauce when we put the sauce into the meat to cook it. Also makes a good thickener if you're doing gravies and you want a clear gravy. Use cornstarch, not flour, because gravy made with flour is going to be opaque. Gravy made with cornstarch will be clear. It's fairly quickly, just kind of drop them in lightly. You don't have to press it into it. Cornstarch is very finely ground stuff. Get a plate full and I'll put those in to cook, and then while that's cooking, I'll do the next round of these. just do them all. Still trying to decide what my next video is going to be, what to do with the other half of the flank steak. I'm either going to do Mongolian beef or a ginger lime beef stir fry, which I'll probably do that tomorrow night. I've got ingredients for both of those. I'm just trying to decide which one I really want to do. But that'll be coming your way tomorrow. Do all these and then put them in the pan. By the way, cutting this up, if you don't have an electric knife, Carla, you can use a regular knife, but the secret to cutting meat into thin strips, if you don't have an electric knife, is to partially freeze the meat so it's about halfway frozen. You can cut it with a regular knife a whole lot easier that way. That almost done. Okay. Oops. And of course I get cornstarch everywhere. I have to warn you, I am not a neat cook. I tend to be very sloppy and I get stuff spilled everywhere. Like flour and cornstarch and all that. Well, that's okay. I'll get Pauline to clean it up for me. She's pretty good at that. Alright. There's my last piece. Alright, I'm going to rinse my fingers off real quickly here. Alright. Now for the fun part. Ooh, that's hot. Alright, so now we're just going to add these into the pan. There. Because they're thin, they're going to cook really, really quickly. We've got probably 2 tablespoons of oil in here. Get this with. Throw the rest of these in here. Then I'll put the lid on it for a few minutes. Of it. Might add a little bit more oil to that. the lid on that. Ooh, that's hot. Let that go for a couple of minutes. And we'll stir it around and we'll come back to it. Alright, the meat is nicely browned now, so I'm going to add the orange sauce to this. Cornstarch sticking to the bottom, but that's okay. This pan's going to clean up really easily because it's a non-stick pan. Alright. The heat's going to come back up, and while it's doing that, see it's starting to bubble already. It's going to thicken up, and as soon as it thickens up, we're going to add the broccoli. Lid off the broccoli there. The broccoli is all nice and bright green now. That's how you know it's steamed and not boiled. It turns a nice bright green to it. And wait, there's a dog. There's a dog. There's a dog. There's a dog. Hey, dog. She's here to clean up for me because you see I've got cornstarch all over the floor, all over the cabinet, all over the front of my pants. That's going to look really cute when I take the garbage out tonight. Okay. Alright. So that's thickening up. Now we're just going to add the broccoli to it. And I need hot pads for that because that pan's really hot. Alright, let's take the steamer basket out. Dump the broccoli in. And one of them tried to escape. Excuse you, dog. Here, have some broccoli. Yeah, maybe not. Okay. Alright. Broccoli's in there. Just going to give this a stir around. I'm going to turn the heat off because it's heated enough. We'll stir it around to mix it up good. Smells wonderful. Okay. Alright. There's that. So now to fix this up, we're going to get the brown rice. Put that on the plate. That. There's extra there because one of my co-workers is obviously going to be getting some orange beef and broccoli for lunch later this week. I'm going to take it to her. My friend Linda at work brought me some stroganoff yesterday, so I'm going to return the favor and give her some of this for lunch later this week. Okay. And I'm just going to scoop this up. Probably should have cut my broccoli into some smaller pieces there. Some of those are big chunks. A little bit more. Alright. Okay, and there we go. Orange beef and broccoli served on brown rice. Good to eat, except for Joseph, until I teach him how to eat broccoli. I'm going to put that in wedding vows, actually, I think. Joseph, I promise to make you learn how to eat broccoli. Let's see how that goes over. Anyway, hope you like this one, Carla, and I'll see you next time.